Hello everybody and welcome to our webinar about winning sales presentations, and we will tell you 5 steps how to create them, how to have winning sales presentations. I'm Paulus Perkkiö, CEO from Seidat, and I'm here together with Joona. Joona have a little bit later opportunity to present him a little more detailed. But when we are now waiting for other people to join webinar during this time, I can present shortly our social media channels, which I really recommend you to follow, especially in LinkedIn and Instagram, I would say. On those channels, we tell what kind of new events are coming, what kind of new features we have, and share many kind of ideas. So I really recommend that to everyone. And okay, today we have this topic, 5 steps to winning sales presentation, and we will go that with the following topics. What type of materials do you need during the stages of the sales process, and what kind of content hooks buyers, and how the visually good quality sales presentation will affect the buyer, how to polish up the visuality of the presentation. And we share the whole webinar together time with Joona, and maybe it's good time for you, Joona, to present yourself. Welcome on board.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Joona. I work at Seidat since 2017. I've been working with, well, I haven't counted, but I would say hundreds of our clients, helping them to create typically their sales materials and helping them to onboard Seidat. So humble brag, but I would say I'm maybe the most qualified person, maybe besides Paulus, to answer on our side what creates the good and winning sales presentation. So that's why I'm here. I'll be discussing maybe later on is my chance to bring in my expertise in the graphical aspects and the different kind of content options that we have, but more on that later.
Yes. So once again, welcome everybody, and technically I will tell you that we will record the meeting session, the whole webinar, and after the webinar we will share the recording to you. So if something happens, then you will get that recording and you can share it also to your colleagues. We have chat all the time open, so please send some messages to us if you have any questions, comments, whatever. I really like if we have some interaction during this webinar, so that we don't need to only tell our opinions, but we could also answer your questions. It's always interesting to start with the question, what do sales mean in 2023? Is there something specialty in that? If you think about, we try to help you to build the winning sales presentations. It's always important to understand what is sales all about, how we think about sales this year. Is there something specialties? If you think about last years, the world has changed quite a lot, but in my opinion, the change has not been so big in sales in reality. We maybe use different kind of methods. We have more virtual sales, not so many face-to-face meetings, maybe a little bit more communication with in email or other in LinkedIn, but the basics are still same. Sales for me it's always problem solving. and trying to understand what kind of needs the customer has and helping them to be successful. And typically, when we think about sales, it's some kind of process. It starts from something, and in the end, there is a one deal. So there are many meetings, typically collaboration between sales and marketing. There is collaboration between sales team members, and always collaboration between buyer and seller. If you think about that, our goal is to tell something about winning sales presentation. It's always good to think of the opposite side of that. What is the bad sales presentation? It would be also nice if you could write some comments to chat channel. What kind of examples you have about bad sales presentation. But we have written 3 topics there: dissatisfaction, extra work for salespeople, lost business. And I think this last one is the most important one. If we are building winning sales presentations, I think we are working with the mission which our company has to enable winning sales flow. So if we are thinking about good presentations, the ultimate goal should be winning sales. But my opinion is that there is no winning sales deck at all. The sales deck itself is not it's not the solution, and there is no way to build one deck which you can use in every situation. We have seen it many times that you need maybe several sales decks, and the combination of those decks will be the one big solution to build winning sales presentation. As I said earlier, there are several steps during the sales process, and if I clarify it a little bit, typically the sale starts from the marketing side, where there is a lead generation part. Then someone is contacting someone. There will be a meeting. Maybe after the meeting, some content will be shared. There is maybe several meetings. It depends on what kind of industry you are and how big projects you are selling or products. Finally, there comes some kind of closing session and signing the contract. If we simplify the process, it looks like this. And how we think that in all of those stages, typically, you can use some kind of sales materials, and Seidat users are using Seidat. And if you think about the material, what you can use when you are contacting companies, people, finding the right decision makers, the content should be totally different kind of material what you use in sales meeting. And when you send some memos, some sponsor letters to your buyers after the meeting, it's once again totally different kind of content. Do you have something in your mind, Joona, to comment so far?
Nothing. I'll leave my thoughts till a few slides onwards. So keep on going.
What is common for those different presentation decks? I would say that it's very important always that there is some kind of wow effect. It can be visual, it can be some calculator or whatever, but something that, wow, this is interesting. The wow builds trust, I would say. It's all, of course, very important that it's supporting the salesperson. In early stages of the process, the support is different than in sales meeting, for example, and the supporting role after the meeting is totally different. Interaction is all, of course, really important. And because of that interaction part, we have built, for example, our platform so that you have this kind of presenter view in your presentation, and you can select their slides in that order how your conversation with your customer is going, and it helps you to have this kind of interaction you can adapt to the session. If we once again come to this process, I would say that typically, if we think about content, winning sales deck in contacting phase, it means that it's very short. The presentation maybe includes maximum 10 slides, I would say. Typically maybe 5. But in a sales meeting itself, if you think about adaptation, if you think about the whole product platform which you have, product families, services, if you want to have all that content in one presentation, in our case, for example, my sales deck includes more than 150 slides. It's totally different sales deck what I use in introduction. After the meeting, when I share some content to my customer, I tailor it a little bit, and then I share, let's say, about 50 to 20 slides. It depends on what are the important topics to customer, and based on that information, I mix the sponsor letters. In proposal, it depends on, of course, it's typically from 5 to 10 slides, and agreement is what it is. If we think about sales deck itself, typically people are using in meetings some kind of company presentations. If you think about company presentations, they can include maybe something. In our case, we never use company presentation in sales meeting, but if we could think what could it be, what kind of company presentation we could create, it maybe have something about sales, something about our platform, integration opportunities, something about our customers, and where are we operating, something about our numbers when the company is founded, and something about the organization. But if you think about sales situation, I would say that stop using any kind of company presentation, because it's not something what your audience, what the buyer is typically waiting for. They have problems and they are looking for solutions for those problems. And because of that, I really recommend to create totally separate kind of presentation, and let's call it sales presentation. How we typically build the sales deck, it maybe in our case include something, once again, something about our product, more slides about our product and features, and how it will help our customers. But then we include typically something about the need discovery part to the presentation. So we maybe open this kind of slide and then start discussing with customers that what kind of challenges you have in sales, how everything goes, is the quality of different salespeople on same level, how the cross sales is working, what happens in sales if you will have new products and services. Is it easy to onboard new salespeople? How about how everything goes with your sales materials? Is there any flexibility to present when you present that content? How about the brand identity? Is the quality high enough? And so on. And maybe we discuss also something about how the onboarding of the product will be run, something about pricing, of course about references, and so on. I think the content is a little bit different, and we structurize typically with our customers this presentation typically so that it has some introduction part. Then there is this customer need clarification, something about problem, how to solve it, something about solution which you are selling, why your customers should select you as a partner, something about your references and process, how the onboarding will happen, and so on. And then in the end of the presentation, next steps. If you think about the content which I'm now telling that should be included in a sales deck, I believe that it's quite near of the structure of your typical sales meeting. It's starting from introduction. You discuss more about those needs, what your customer has, and so on. I really recommend that you use exactly the typical structure of your meeting for when you create the sales presentation, and you include everything what you typically need, what kind of discussions you really want to have in sales meetings. If you have good solutions for your onboarding services, then you must have slide about those onboarding services. If you have well done packaging with your product, then please tell those packages on very detailed level in your presentation. Then it will be very easy for you and your colleagues to use those presentations, those slides in a meeting. Of course, if you have, like I have, 150 slides, it means that if you use some kind of linear structure in your presentation, it's really messy to use. And that's why you must also select the technology which you use for presenting presentations very well. Of course, I'm fan of Seidat. It's not big amaze, but this kind of solutions will help you to have interaction in those sales meetings. It's also very important, as I said, that you may use presentations differently in different stages, and it's not only presenting the presentations, it's also sharing. And what I really recommend that you use that kind of technology where you can see if your customers are opening those presentations, which slides they are browsing, and so on. Maybe you will have also notifications, like if you think about the situation that after the meeting you have shared some content to your customers, your sales process will stop, you will lose the deal, but what happens after 6 months? Your potential customer opens the presentation once again, which you shared 6 months ago. And if you have a notification and you know that they have opened it, you know what to do next. That's why I think it's very interesting to understand those needs, what you have also for the technology which you are using.
I have a question for you, Paulus. You mentioned that you have the 150 slides roughly. It's somehow structured like this, the example shown on the slide. But do you visit all the slides that you have in the same ratio, or do you have some that you rarely use? And what are those rarely used slides? Are they just more in-depth slides, or what's the role of those?
This is a really good question. At first, I must say that, for example, if we are selling our solution to our customers, typically we are discussing with salespeople. Then the second mostly we are discussing with marketing people. But then there comes sometimes IT people, they are interested about the security things and that kind of thing, how to make login systems and how about this and that kind of integrations. Because of the different kind of roles of barriers, I use different slides. Typically, salespeople, they are not interested at all about the security things. But when IT people are joining, then I must have different kind of slides. It's one big differentiator between those different kind of sales meetings and materials which we use. They are for different kind of purpose. And if you think about barriers, there are several types of barriers. Some people, they are really detail oriented, and it's really nice that whatever detail they ask, I have some slide which I can show. But typically, I would say that if I have 150 slides, maybe 30, 40 of them are very often used. And the most other slides are not so often used.
Yeah.
And
and one thing I've noticed when starting to create and helping our clients to create their materials in Seidat is that we often start, of course, with maybe the 20, 30 slides that are the most used. But then the customers can, when they notice that, hey, the IT person needs this kind of information, then we add it to the master presentation that then everyone else can use. So it's an ongoing process for us as well to, when we notice that we get asked this question this many times, then we create a slide for the future questions. And sales presentation in our point of view is never essentially ready. We need to add stuff, we need to remove maybe sometimes some, and of course update the existing material.
One thing which I want to point still about the process itself. If you think about this process that you have the sales meeting itself, you run the meeting, and after the meeting you share some kind of sponsor letter. It is something what I didn't understand earlier what is the role of that kind of sponsor letters and memos. When I meet someone in a sales meeting, there are typically in same organization, there are several type of people who are influencing to the final decision maker. And typically when I share the content for the buyer, I'm making they as a salespeople inside the organization. When they get the sponsor letter content, they will use that content to sell that idea to their bosses, to their colleagues. And when we want to invite more people to next meeting, for example, they use that content to inform what is the agenda, why this is very important topic, and what kind of things this and that solution could help. And because of that, I'm really big fan of those sponsor letters because I'm making buyers to work as my sales colleagues, and it's very fun idea, and it works really well.
I have a question for you, Paulus, about this topic, which I discuss quite often with our clients.
Yeah.
They think that in many cases that it's okay to send the sales presentation to the client that then they can check and use in their internal discussions. Why do you think this isn't the best idea?
It depends on always. If I think about my 150 slide deck, it's absolutely too big to share to anyone. No one will find any important information from this big amount of slides. So that's one reason. The second reason could be that if I create a presentation for myself, it can be. I try to find a good example. For example, this slide. There is not too much text as an example. There is, but maybe this slide is not explaining the whole story well enough. Typically, when I share the content to my customers, those slides has maybe a little bit more information, or we embed some kind of video inside the slides, and in that video we explain a little bit more about the topic. And that's why those videos are not good for in this kind of meeting situation. But when I share and I want that presentation is a tool to sell inside the organization, videos are really good in that situation because they help me to join those discussions.
And maybe one thing I could add to the sponsor letter discussion is we typically add like a brief summary of what has been discussed before. So it's all included in the presentation. So if that gets shared within the organization who's buying, then they can read that, hey, we have actually discussed this and that before in the meetings with this and this person. So that's also one important bit.
Yeah, typical structure of this kind of sponsor letters is including some hello part, summary of last discussions, challenges which we try to solve, some ideas how we could solve, and our solution, why we references and next steps. This is one example how to build those sponsor letters. Yes, Joona, you have some more concrete about, if I have now told a little bit more about sales process level, but if we start to build those winning sales presentations, what is the way to do them?
Yes, thank you. If I start with the problem that many of our clients face, typically when they use some other presentation tool, it is the structure of typical company, and even in a small company, having all the different parts of the process who should be involved in creating the winning sales material, they might not be discussing, or they might not even have the possibility to influence each other's um, each other's actions in the company to create the winning sales material. In many cases, it might be a typical problem that our clients are facing with other tools, is that they um, might have some outdated material that hasn't been updated to their presentation because they don't know that they should update it, or salespeople just do their own materials and marketing does their own. What we are trying to build is a tool that brings it all together. We want to have the brand people in the left column, or the left pinkish area, people who actually know, like, their own pockets, what the company brand should look like, what the message should be. They are typically the ones creating the first materials, the templates, maybe the master decks. But then once it goes forward, it's not something that the salespersons use at the end of the day. And having a tool, and of course that's what we help our clients to do, is to have the different people helping each other, having the visibility, the transparency to build the material together, having the brand identity, the message coherent, but also having the right messages that the salespersons only might know that they need to communicate. If we start with the fourth step, having the brand in design unified, it's something that we try to do with of course our own material. We might be a bit different than, like, many of our clients. They might have more traditional looking presentations, or more unified, that one product line is with a certain color set and another one is with another one. But what we try to do is have, of course, the design of the presentation looking like every slide looks like Seidat slides. And in our company, for example, we are not equal in our skills in creating good looking slides. But regardless who creates the slides, then we can have other people who can help, graphic designers or content creators, helping to bring it all together, and every presentation then looks unified. I would like to also take out one example case that will now automatically change the slides, that we helped to our clients to get and build it together with them. And this shows another example of how the brand and the unification of the presentation brings it all together. In this presentation, pay attention to the images. They are all images from the client, so they are very good basis to start having the unified presentation. Ourselves, we had said that we use a lot of image bank images, and there's a skill that we have learned to pick up images that go well together. But it's of course always better if you have your own images. Also, in this, how we brought it all together in the presentation, we used a set of icons. So all the icons you see are created by the original designer, to be like similar to each other and unified in the looks. Of course, in many companies, they might be already produced, so it's even easier. We don't need to source them. But regardless where the icons and other graphical elements come, it's good to have them designed by persons who know how to design them and pick something that go well together. We have a ton of good examples. Unfortunately, they're not all public, but a lot of our clients have really honed the skill of having their own unified look. Anything on this that you would like to add, Paulus? I will show a few tips and tricks how to quickly bring it all together, but anything you want to add now?
No, not especially, but I really have seen those problems several years. How to keep all content in a company on the same level, and it's a really important thing for myself because my background is actually in design, so I'm a designer from my educational background, and whenever I see bad quality material, it's like I'm very sad about that. And that's why it's very important that you have tools which support your team to create good quality. Always use same kind of fonts and colors. It's helping your team to be proud of your product and your company.
Yeah, and building the brand is like, it doesn't need many like points of contact with the customer, that if it's broken, if one of your sales guy is using completely the wrong colors and maybe fonts, it's subtle, but it starts to creep in that it's not coherent. But when it's well designed, from the website to the marketing materials to the sales materials to the offers and so on, that brings a level of professionalism to the game. But yeah, I'll show a few quick tips. This isn't a design workshop per se. You're more than welcome to ask any questions if you have any examples, or contact us later on. But something that we try to use or live by in all of our presentations, in all of the slides that we create. Sometimes they're better looking, sometimes we need to hone them a bit, but the goal is always the same. We have funnily labeled United Colors of Presentation. It means that we have, like many brands, of course, have a brand book, and we have created a color palette that goes well together, and we have 6 main colors in our in our main use. They are the ones, the purple and the orange ones, and then we have some other colors that we of course use, especially in the fonts, the black and white. But this palette has been created to help in many different areas, of course, on our website, on the sales presentations, and so on. Again, like Paulus has been mentioning a few times, having tools that ensure that you use the right colors and everything is on the grassroots level important for every sales guy. They might not know what the color code that they're supposed to use is, so having stuff almost automated to them is essential. Especially in EU, in the recent times, there has been discussion about accessibility. Most of you probably have read about it or discussed with someone else about it, and it's something that has to be kept in mind for everyone, but especially for let's say visually impaired people, that they might have some hard time reading some materials. Where we use images, it's creating a challenge that we need to overcome. Of course, if you use just a solid background color and let's say white background, black font, you cannot really go wrong with that. But if you use images like we tend to use, there are contrast things, like in this example, the left one doesn't have enough contrast. The image itself has challenging areas. It has on the top the really light sky, which you could of course place black text or dark text on top, and it would be fine. But then where the wave of the water, it gets much darker, and then the black text can be a bit hard to read. Now the example is white text, which is decent on top of the wave, but not really readable well enough on the top. What you can do easily is add different color layers. Here we have added a white layer that really sets the text and the image apart, and you can of course change the opacity in the when you're creating different presentations in pretty much any tool. Then one thing that might be like given down to you by the brand people is of course the fonts. These, again, like with the colors, need to be easy enough for people to use, that they know what fonts they use. Different tools have different features built around this. In our tool, it's really easy to just pick the right colors and all the brand settings, and they're always up to date. But you can really play around with fonts. You can, well, this is too much text for one slide, but it's just an example. But having different shades of different fonts and different backgrounds really can turn the focus into one area after another, rather than just having blank canvas, which can, let's face it, it can be boring at times. I mentioned about photos already. Like I said, we have gotten at least we like to think, a good eye on finding good image bank photos. Of course, we've been photographing taking our own photos whenever we can, but it's like we always like we all know, it's labor intensive, so we have used quite a lot of image bank images. Here you can see some of the images that we have actually used, and you can really see a good idea what these images have. So they don't have too much going on in them. The bottom row with the abstract, they are pretty much from left to right, top to bottom, they have something going, but that we can put layer on top, and it really doesn't hurt the image, because it's nothing that you should see the whole image or a part of the image. The images on top with the humans are a bit more tricky, because you don't really want to cover the face or the body parts, if you can avoid that, of the persons in the images. Why we have chosen these images is that they have what we call dead space. So there's a lot of room for image, for text, and of course, if you have the skills or tools to do so, you can actually extend the dead space where you can place more text and enhance the area where you can actually build the presentation on. Sometimes there are images where you have, like, sometimes our customers, when we start to create materials to them, they send us images where they have, let's say, a group photo. Group photo can be a good photo in a presentation, but you really cannot place any content on top of that in many cases, or otherwise you just have to blur the image or add a really thick layer of color on top of it, and then it can work as a background image, but then you cannot really anymore recognize what's happening in the images. Then the last quick tip about creating the presentations and having different kind of layouts is essential. Like if you're used to using Seidat, or you have used, let's say, PowerPoint, typically the frame ratio is set, but you can play around with the area that you're giving, the content area, as we call it. A lot of our presentations, like you've seen here, they might have some sort of split of content on the other side and the image on the other side, like the example page what you're seeing now. Here we use 50/50 layout. You can use any amount of image to content, depending, of course, how much content you have. Some images work better reversed, or you just might want to put the content on the other side if the image is placed like that, or move it to other side. And in many cases, it's, at least in my point of view, it doesn't need to be that all layouts are the same. Some companies might have it and it's completely fine, but we play around with the layouts quite a lot. So we have, sometimes it's that we have half and half. Then we might have, for example, here we have half divided on another axis. Then we have like 4 columns here with image on the back, so it's not that clear. Then we have these processes where it goes from top to bottom, or bottom to top. So you can really play around with that, but of course, again, depending what the graphical guidelines of your company says. But yeah, there were some tips on bringing the presentation to the next level. But of course, coming back to the 4th step of having the message and the brand consistent, that is in the nutshell, like maybe one of the biggest struggles our customers typically face before they might try to be better at it with Seidat. Any questions or comments before we move to the last and 5th step of this webinar? Anything you want to add, Paulus?
I would say that the visual quality is really important. It's like the suit which you are wearing to your sales meeting. It's really important. It brings the first impression of your company. Maybe it can be maybe the first official part of your company which your customer is seeing, and that's why I always say that it's really important.
Yeah. Yes, but do the last step. It's been maybe mentioned a few times already, but it is important. It's especially important in a busy world that it is today, to be memorable. Of course, if you're only company in the ocean fighting for all the fishes, that's great. But typically that's not the case, that you have to really stand out from your competition. And the last step that we lifted up was the creating the wow effect, having something special. It doesn't need to be out of this world, but we have some good content options that we use in our presentations, and a lot of our clients use to really make them stand out. I would like to start with videos. Actually, it's like I've worked for 5 years creating content, creating presentations, and it's something that I think keeps on growing year after year after year. Video is getting cheaper and easier to produce. You can really find good creators, or if you have them in your business, or you can just in an easy way take a mobile phone and shoot a video, upload it, and have it in the presentation. There are many ways to get the videos into your presentations, but videos are, like Paulus mentioned, in the sponsor letter materials. They are essential in those, that you can be in the meetings where you're not actually present. You just have the video there, or you have a reference case or whatever. I would say that's maybe the easiest, cheapest, quickest way to have some sort of wow effect versus just having plain old text. You can, of course, depending on what your business is, what kind of content you have many different kind of materials. We sometimes embed websites or parts of the websites. We might have some form or a web shop or just a website or landing page or whatever that we can embed on the presentation. Of course, we don't want to embed any website just for fun. But if the website has something that we haven't had time, for example, to create into the presentation, then we just add the website and utilize the content on that. And we can, of course, link specific parts of the website if you have built the website in that way. Then another thing that we use quite a lot is calculators. We have calculators like this example here that allow you to do basic calculations. These are embedded again from outside Seidat to the presentations. You can use any calculator tool out there. But yeah, we've used calculators for quite a while, and now that we have three plan pricing, we have on that slide, for example, a comparison calculator where you can calculate how much monthly your Seidat use would be, for example. So you can use that in many cases, and I guess pretty much any business has something that the customers could calculate. Of course, there are businesses where it's so complex that not a single calculator can do the trick, but then you can use that in other ways to create interest in your business. Create a savings calculator, for example, like we have done here. We have calendar bookings. This is Paulus's example. There are numerous tools again that you can use. We use these typically in the presentations before and after the meetings. So we don't, of course, have them in the sales meetings. There we just discuss that, hey, when should we continue this? But in all of those materials that we expect the customers to go through on their own, there we use those embedded calculators. I quickly mention a few more 3D product images. This is a quite old image, but it still works from of Tesla. 3D panorama images, different kind of bots, chart blocks, example charts, and so on. And the last thing I want to, from the fifth step, is to mention AI. It's been in talks, like you have most likely heard it in different outlets, news and whatever, and maybe you've already gotten sick of it, but the last thing to mention is AI, and you can actually use AI already with Seidat. You can, of course, use AI with any tool that integrate with that, and just use OpenAI's tools just by logging into there. But we have started to now test simple-ish process to create content to Seidat presentations that we can then automatically maybe send or have at least part of the process created by the AI, created by automations, and then we just finalize maybe some text, and then we can send it to the client. I think if AI hasn't been in your discussions or in your thoughts now, it is something that is going to change, not only like in bigger sense businesses, but it's going to affect presentations and content, of course, that is added to the presentations. When we go forward, of course, we're gonna expand and increase in different sets of features maybe, but just a glimpse of what you can already do with AI and Seidat and other tools, bringing them together. It's really fascinating, and it's something that should be discussed. I've already gone over my scheduled time. Sorry about that, Paulus, but should we now summarize the 5 steps, and then at the end, Paulus is going to mention a few words about Seidat, which we have saved for last.
Yeah. Of course, it's we say that we will tell you 5 steps how to build those winning sales presentations. So the first step, what was there was is the understanding those different sales stages and what kind of content, what kind of material you need in those stages. It's a really important part. Second, be prepared with sufficient content. So please do big enough master presentations so that you can use that content and adapt in discussions, interact with your customer. When they ask something, you have material which will help you to answer those questions. Don't just follow the presentation, have a discussion. It's very important that we say many times that stop presenting. Presenting itself is dead. But discussions during the meeting, they are really welcome. Everyone wants to discuss with you, but they don't like to listen any kind of presentation.
Yes. And have the brand settings from the first material that you send all the way to the proposals. Have the brand really thought out, have the message coherent. And then the last one, create some wow effect. Start easy if you haven't already. Have videos, maybe add a calendar embed to some of the materials, and that really already in the technology age of today, it still works as a wow effect in many cases. Yes.
Yes. But if you don't have good enough presentations, we can help you. We can be your partner in sales presentations, not only offering you this amazing tool, our sales presentation platform, but also those services to build those presentations. If I shortly describe what is Seidat all about, it's sales presentation platform in which you can manage the whole life cycle of your sales materials from early material creation to presenting, sharing, analyzing how your team and your customers are browsing those presentations. We have also e-signature features for those users who want to make proposal in presentation format. It can be used with any kind of device, and because you have all content in one place, it's very easy to keep them always up to date. If you update one slide, it can update hundreds or thousands presentations, even if you want it to that way. We have many ways to keep all the content always up to date from brand point of view, images and smart slides. Smart slides are those slides if I want to update, for example, this slide, it will update thousands of presentations by one click. This slide is explaining how we integrate our platform to your sales and marketing ecosystems, to your social media channels, to your analytics tools, to your CRM tools. And combining that with AI is amazing tool which can help your sales team and sales and marketing team to save time quite a lot to make tailored presentation to your customers. That was shortly about Seidat. In future, next webinar will be about presentations and AI. So please follow our social media channels. We will tell you what will be the next webinar in 2 weeks. But when you have that in your calendar, then it will be really interesting to see you online there. Anything to add, Joona?
No. If we do not have any questions, then I guess thanks for everyone who's online, and hopefully you got now the tools to create even better materials than you already have.
Yes, I can give you one opportunity still to ask any questions, but during you are typing the questions or comments, then I would say that please do a lot of sales, create new records, and wait for summertime. The warm is coming and sun is shining once again. It's very nice season of the year. But thank you. It was nice that so many people were online, and see you in the meetings. Please schedule a meeting with our salespeople if you have any ideas which you want to discuss with us. Thank you.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.